week.
Yeah, they all feel really busy all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is like the fall, especially late fall, is a busy ambassador visiting time. So we've hosted, let's see, the ambassador of Egypt, the former ambassador of Afghanistan. We have the ambassador of Australia coming soon.
Okay, and they're all coming to the university, is that right?
Well, I say coming. The first Afghanistan and Egypt were with us virtually, so they were virtual events, and the ambassador of Australia actually will be here on the 19th for an event. If you're on grounds on Friday the 13th or Friday the 19th, you'd be most welcome. It'll be at Batten in the Great Hall over there.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's at 11 o'clock, so it'll be daytime.
I'm usually working on Fridays during that hour. That's hard for me. You know, my work hours are my hours where I see my clients eliminate virtually any daytime programs or activities for me. Yeah. So occupational hazard, but I appreciate the invitation.
For sure.
I'm wondering if it will be just you and me for education.
Probably. It wouldn't surprise me because we're lacking a teammate.
Yeah. So I don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. It is 4:30 now, so I presume that we are live and.
Okay. So I'll be happy to take a few notes, you know, like sort of minutes.
Sure.
For us, unless you would just prefer to do it for some reason.
No, you please, by all means. And
okay.
We can go slow and easy. No,
okay.
No rush.
Well, we may not have that much, you know, to cover. So
I figured we would look at our goals. You know, I mean, that's one that we definitely want to, and I think that our goals are not that bad. I mean, I think they're decent goals, and I can share them on the screen. I have them.
I do have I went ahead and pulled up a physical copy too.
Oh, okay, great.
I'll
just pop it up for me. So
I also have in front of me, you know, our notes from or minutes from the quarterly meeting we had in May.
Okay, all right.
Where we reviewed those goals, and I'm guessing we probably are going to do the same thing and decide if those goals need to be carried forward or if they need to be changed or, you know, eliminated, right?
Right. Yeah. Let me open up those minutes. 1 second. I'm chugging. Do you have an electronic version of that up, or did you print it?
I have a printed version, so you don't have to screen share with me.
Well, my computer is chugging trying to pick it up.
Oh, do you want me to share it with you?
Maybe if you could, if that works for you, that would be great.
Okay, give me a second.
Sure.
You want the minutes?
My boys. Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay.
My boys are also on a school Zoom right now.
Yeah.
So we're double Zooming.
All right. Can you see those? This is the minutes from the May 24 meeting. And if we scroll down to education, whoops, right there.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes. Perfect.
You got it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you able to manipulate the minutes, or do I need to be doing that on my end?
Well, you mean the May minutes?
The ones right here, the one I'm sharing on my screen?
Yeah. Are we going to, let's see. So these are our notes about the goals and kind of our update.
Well, these are the official sort of minutes from the quarterly meeting we had in May.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why it says notes, but at any rate, I mean, I think it's just a written copy of what we did in the education committee meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think these will be helpful in kind of reading over and marking up our new goals for sure.
Right. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this is putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but I'm so mindful that we're sort of, a committee of, two, and we
Right.
don't actually have our other education rep on the commission. And it seemed to me that you and I should talk about how to fill that position, and if and make a plan to kind of be more proactive about that, because it's wonderful that we have an education committee, and I think it's great we can set goals, but without kind of the full strength of both of our education reps, I think the goals are just, they're sort of aspirational, and they're probably not really going to be very easy to accomplish. With me on the committee, which I'm happy to remain on the committee, but my priority has to be Besançon related activities, and those are heating up. So at any rate, I just wanted to put that out there, and I didn't.
I had recruit new members my number one point.
Okay, well, maybe why don't we talk about that first, if that's okay with you?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
So,
mean, that's, yeah, go ahead.
my understanding from conversations that I had with Neely when she announced that she would be resigning her commission, and also I think I had a similar conversation informally with Terry DeCintio, the former chair. What I understood is that in past practice has been for the Charlottesville City School administration to essentially nominate or appoint someone to apply. I mean, I understand that person has to go through the application process and be selected by and be appointed by city council. But if I understood correctly, past practice has been that we really look inside the school system and ask them to essentially tap someone who they know would be interested and would agree, to kind of fill the spot. And thinking about getting ready for tonight, I feel like that has not happened organically, and I don't know if Neely maybe reached out to someone before she moved to Albemarle County Schools, but if she did, I think there's been no follow-up, and I wondered if we don't need to just go ahead and be in touch. And Damon, I was trying to think about a way that we could maybe divide and conquer on that. And I have a proposal.
Great.
I know that you don't live in the city, but I don't really think you should consider that a barrier. I wondered if, as commission chair, you would agree to take on the task of reaching out to the Charlottesville City School Superintendent's office, or, I mean, it's the central administration, and inform them that our K-12 position, which has typically been filled by someone who works in the Charlottesville City School system, I mean, it has to be, is vacant, and that there's a December 10th application deadline coming up, and we'd like to ask them to nominate someone to fill that space, that we understand that that's typically how that process has gone. So we have a new superintendent, so who knows what kind of information's been passed along. You still with me?
I think I'm back. Sorry about that.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can.
So, while I have internet, I say yes.
Okay.
I can do that.
And what I would volunteer to do is see if I can reach out to Annie Evans, who served in that position for several terms and was apparently just phenomenal, a phenomenal help with, in particular, with school exchanges. And
Right.
yeah, and ask her and pick her brain a little bit about what that person, what's involved for that person, and maybe even ask her if she's I think she's retired, but she may still have lots of associates and colleagues in the school system. She may be able to make some recommendations.
Yeah, that sounds great. By the way, I just turned off my camera so I can get a little bit more bandwidth.
Okay, great. So
Thank you.
I would be happy to try to find Annie Evans. I think probably I can ask around and reach out to her. And that, I don't think you should wait on me to do that, but I'd be happy to talk to her to gather information if you would be willing to go ahead and reach out to the central office.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if this is really true, but my sense has been that, you know, if someone's nominated from inside the school system and they agree to take on the role, then it's kind of pro forma that city council will approve, because those are the really important criteria.
Right. I mean, I think I remember us chatting about this during a meeting, and I thought Max said that that was not a formal thing. But Max, if you're there, do you have any thought on that?
Yeah, no, Elizabeth is correct. So the school would nominate someone, and then council
Great.
would have to, they'd complete an application and council would have to appoint them.
Okay, but is it a little bit more, is it more similar? Is it similar to UVA's model, where it's basically the higher ed and the council more or less takes the recommendation, or is it more like an at-large member where they appreciate it but may or may not approve?
I think that it would be the former.
Okay, great.
Now, Grant, I mean, anything is can happen, honestly. But yeah, I think it's the former. They take the nomination.
Okay. Sounds good.
But but that person does need to conform to the application cycles. Is that right?
Yes, they need to complete an application,
Right. So
and the
this
school
is
would need
the
to
moment.
submit a recommendation letter.
Okay, we need to seize the moment then. And see if we can get that position filled. So, okay, so that's great, Damon. I mean, we have a plan.
So I also have a contact in the school, a Spanish teacher that I can reach out to. She does not live in Charlottesville or even Albemarle. She lives in Louisa, but she might have some good recommendations too. I figure it can't hurt to, you know, you check with Annie Evans, I'll check with the city school, the office, and I can see if the person I know has any tips.
Yeah.
I am in total agreement that we need to recruit somebody pretty quickly.
Right. And, you know, I don't know if we're going to butt up against this issue of whether or not the actual appointee lives within the city or not, because there are going to be plenty of teachers who work in city schools who don't live in the city of Charlottesville. But I would say what's much more important is that it's someone who represents the K-12 system that we serve. I mean, that the Sister City Commission is primarily tasked with serving, and that is the Charlottesville City School System. So if it's the right person, if it's a good person, if it's an enthusiastic person, if it's someone who's going to actually go to work for us, I think it would be worth really, you know, you know, seeing that person's nomination through, and maybe even, you know, putting a little pressure on council to overlook the physical address where they live.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that the address will play a factor so much in this type of scenario, as long as they are an educator within the city school
Yeah.
system.
That makes sense. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Max. Okay, so can you still hear me, Damon?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Well, so then that was the only other thing that I kind of had on my agenda, to be sure that we checked. Oh, no, I do have something else to tell you. And this may have a bearing on whatever goals we revisit or we tweak. And that is that that Sister Cities International has just announced the Young Authors and Artists Showcase theme for 2022. So the contest is open with an April 1st deadline. And I am going to be reaching out with that information to Aaron Eichhorst, who's, as you know, the coordinator of fine and performing arts for the city school system this week, because he is raring to go to facilitate getting some kids in the, you know, eligible kids in the city schools to submit applications. And we're far enough ahead of the game now that there can be a little bit more attention to planning and perhaps, you know, recruiting or you know, involving, you know, a significantly more, or at least some more kids. And so that's kind of exciting, because he's really enthusiastic about it. He'd like to see it happen again. I'd like to. We talked about it as a commission. We'd like to. It's a great program, and it's an easy program for us to sponsor because other people do all of the advanced work. And all we have to do is have kind of a mechanism for getting the word out to the students in our schools, and a contact inside the schools, and we've got that. And so that's kind of fun, and I think we can count on that as ticking a box potentially in terms of education committee activities and goals.
Yeah, I think that sounds fantastic. Is there a limit to the number? I forget. What is the limit, or is there one for the number of submissions we can?
Yeah, there is a limit, but it's very generous. I mean, for a community our size, it's extremely generous. So there are, well, last year there were 6 categories, and I just looked at the information today, and I think there are still 6 categories, and you can only nominate up to 5 people in each category. So a cap of 30 applicants from any sister city community who's sponsoring. But, you know, we're a small enough community that, I mean, that would be, I mean, I'd be thrilled if there were 30 students, but that, I don't think that is going to limit us like it would in a much larger, you know, urban area with a bigger school system, for example.
Sure. So if we were to get, let's say, more than 5 in a particular category,
right?
Do we should we consider a mechanism for voting, or a
Yes,
a committee, or something like that?
Again, Aaron has already, we've already had that discussion. We had that discussion last year. And my sense is that within the school system, they will organize a kind of a jury process. If they have more than 5 students who want to participate in any of the categories, then internally, they'll do some kind of fun jury process. So we don't necessarily have to organize that or find someone to make that happen. And then they will, you know, have a panel from, and it might be just educators, but it also might include community members, and I can certainly help connect them with community members. But Aaron is an artist himself, so I'm pretty sure he's very plugged into the arts community, and he could probably also tap community members to be part of the jury for any given category of entry. And so I think that he stands ready to deal with that if it were to happen. And then the jury, whatever jury they might put together, would select the top 5 entries that they would forward to us to submit on behalf of the, Charlottesville sister city community. Then Aaron also already is thinking about and mentioned to me that if there were enough entries, whether or not any of our students won any of the prizes, on the backside, it would be fun to organize an exhibition that could be open to anybody in the community who wants to see the pieces that our school students have submitted. And once again, he's already offered the exhibition space at the front of the MLK Performing Arts Center as a place to do that. So, he's a gem. I mean, it's great that he's got, he's very organized, he's on top of it, and I think he can really kind of run with it and see it through.
Well,
That answer your question?
I wonder. You hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if he would be interested in serving on the commission.
Well, I think he's a very busy person, Damon.
Yeah.
I think in some ways, of course he could be approached, but I think he's a great resource in the role that he has.
Mhm.
And I suppose I suppose we could float that by and see if it would interest him at all. But my sense, he's in charge of all the fine and performing arts for the entire Charlottesville City School system. So my
Right.
sense is that he has a full plate and he does a lot of stuff. And I wonder if, in fact, in some ways he is able to be more helpful to the commission in the role that he's already in.
Right. Well, that makes sense. It sounds like he's definitely helpful for this one, for sure.
But, it might be useful to, because I've, made this connection with him, I'd be happy to let him know that we have some at-large positions open on the commission and ask him if anybody comes to mind who he thinks might be a good addition to our, to the commission. Anybody, a colleague that he works with. It doesn't, we don't have to limit ourselves to one person who's in the school system. If there's somebody else who lives in the community that's interested, or somebody in the arts community, because we do seem to have a lot of arts related grant applications.
Well, it does sound like he's pretty connected with the community. So yeah.
Very, yeah.
Maybe
So
he'll have some ideas.
I can let him know, that we're seeking additional commission members. So do you want us to go ahead and look over the goals? Technical difficulties. Damon's end. Are you back with us, Damon?
Sorry about that. My kids are getting off. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yep.
So on these minutes from May,
Yeah.
these are not our original goals, but rather notes that fit into the goals, right? Because our goals are more broad.
Well, our goals, if you want me to, I can read out the goals. I can read out what goal number 1 is. The original goals are not.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I mean, or just maybe take this off the screen for a second. Well,
Okay.
either way, like unshare, because I've
Yep.
got, okay, let me just, okay. Okay. So our original goals, and I think you see it as well. Goal number 1, host a series of virtual interactive events that connect to current school curriculum.
Right.
And I think our NASA event was kind of going to fit into there, which obviously did not happen.
Right.
And
Although, yeah.
did we have anything that fit into this? I don't really.
No, I think
really.
when the committee drafted the goals, for 2021,
Mhm.
Kate volunteered. Kate already had this idea of trying to do the International Space Station. It's an event where they stream.
Yeah.
There's an interactive session between kids and the astronauts on the space station, and there's a certain number of those that they do, that the astronauts at the
right.
space station do, and you have to apply.
Right.
And so that was really the singular event that the committee was enthusiastic about trying to put energy into. She did follow through on that, and I believe what she told us is that they had basically already made their commitments for 2021. And if we were interested in pursuing that at some other point, we would just need to circle back and find out kind of what the application process is and what the timeline is for that. So that, that goal just basically was not, we couldn't implement it because the space station, was already committed.
Yeah, sure.
The idea about that was also to try to address, the pandemic and offer something to the school-based community, that people could, sort of zoom into virtually. So, but that was the one and singular event that the committee discussed for goal number 1.
Mhm. I mean, do we want to keep this goal? Or I wonder if it's starting to become, I mean, obviously we're still into virtual activities, but people are, I think, rapidly becoming tired of virtual activities.
Yeah, I have questions about that I had questions too about whether or not that's a goal that we need to keep, or that maybe couldn't be sort of set to the side. And I agree. It seems like everyone has just sort of got great Zoom fatigue now.
Yeah.
And, it might be better served to think of some other way in which we might be able to support or promote or help, offer logistical support, maybe not necessarily organize and host ourselves because we just don't have the manpower, but maybe lend support or generate ideas for some other kind of event that would connect to the current school curriculum. But in the absence of a K-12 rep, it's a little hard, I think, for you and I because we're not on the inside of that system, to know what some of the options might be, and what people could get excited about, and what kind of manpower or woman power we'd be able to count on, inside the school system. So in a way, I sort of feel like that goal number 1 is maybe no longer as high a priority. And I don't even know if it makes sense for us to try to replace it with something comparable.
Yeah, I think that everyone is sick of this.
Yeah.
Everyone is tired of virtual stuff. Teachers are, kids are. So it's definitely something we should consider. Now, one thought I had on each of these goals was, and I know it's kind of semantics, but adding the phrase after host, like host or work with a grantee on ...
I agree.
For each one of these. And like plan an educational event, plan or work with a grantee on an educational event that would engage ...
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point, Damon. And this is something I've been thinking an awful lot about in regards to my Besançon rep position. Is the languaging of this, and the degree to which the degree to which we are setting goals that may not actually be within our sphere of capacity to implement, because they really need to be implemented by community partners instead.
Yes.
As opposed to the Sister City Commission.
Yeah,
We're not a programming board. We're operating at about half strength. We all have other roles and responsibilities that we need to stay on top of. And I just don't see us being in a position to plan and program events right now.
Maybe.
And I don't know if that's something that the commission was able to do in years past, when there was a full slate of commissioners, and those commissioners had standing volunteer committees to assist them, but that doesn't seem to be our structure at the moment. And so it does seem to me that if we're going to set goals like this, we're much more likely to be able to achieve them and demonstrate, hitting our marks if they intersect with what's already working and what we're already able to do. Like, it would be appropriate, I would think, if the commission has a particular interest in there being a community-wide event that, for example, goal number 2, a community event that engages students in our community who are traditionally underrepresented by our other programming, or students who may not even know we have sister cities. If we have a particular interest in there being community event that engages those students, then it makes sense to me that what we do is we set that as a goal, and we task the grants committee to solicit grant applications, that would be consistent with that goal.
Yeah.
Or that we put out, an announcement, or we put something on our website or on our media sources saying we're actively seeking grant applicants who would be interested in this kind of educational program. And then, what comes with that theoretically is someone who's got the energy, the interest, and then maybe also has their own community partners that they're going to be reaching out to help plan, implement, and oversee, the event or the activity or the project or whatever it might be. So I think maybe you and I are thinking along the same lines.
Yeah, definitely. I think also, I mean, we would not, if we worked with a grantee for it, they would be granted the funding to do it. So that
Right.
wouldn't need to be, extra funds that we would be spending beyond our grantees, and it would be more predictable because we know more or less what we're going to be, spending on the grants.
Exactly. I know that's an issue too. And I appreciate that Michael asked us to consider, how whatever goals we might be setting would have an impact on our budget request and or our spending. So I guess we don't really know what to expect on that score, but it seems like it's not, we know for sure we have a successful grant program and we know we want to fund that and that there's a commitment to do that. And I'm not sure it makes sense for us to commit ourselves in a committee like this to spending money
Right.
until we know that we're going to have a healthy enough budget to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think I'm in complete agreement that to whatever degree we might be revisiting, revising, or even creating new goals to come out of the Education Committee for 2022, it makes sense to think about those, to conceptualize those, and to frame those out in such a way that we can actually see them achieved.
Right. I
With-
think,
Or
or at least grant 2 or goal 2 and 3.
yeah,
I would even put work with grantee first before, and then or host.
yeah,
Work with grantee or host a virtual or in-person, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that way, if we do find, if maybe we do have a great idea and we find, or maybe we get a new committee member and they're really motivated to do something as
sure.
under the auspices of the commission. But I think I would lean on, the grantee first. Goal number 2, work with a grantee or, work with a grantee or something like that to host or recruit a grantee to host a virtual or in-person event and so on and so forth. So we add that and minimize our role, in the goal.
Well, we take ourselves out of the position of having to be the one to program, because
Right.
I think that I think, now that we've all logged, as I've sat on the commission for a year, I think I have a much better understanding than perhaps I did when I first stepped on about what I'm actually responsible for making happen and what and kind of what my role is in terms of, connecting people with community members or community partners who have the organizational structure in place and perhaps also have the person power in place and perhaps to some degree may also have some of the financial support in place to implement programs that have a sister city focus or that are related to the goals and the mission of our commission. And whereas what I think we were doing last fall is we were thinking we as the education committee, we got to come up with some ideas and then we got to make them happen, and not really thinking about how that was going to occur with a 3-person committee that meets quarterly.
Right. I mean, it is virtually impossible for us to create events that we would need to plan together when only 2 people can be together.
Right. But I don't think it's impossible for us to have aspirational goals in the sense that, as the Sister City Commission, I think it is our job, and those of us who, are on the Education Committee, I believe it is our job to say, how do we want to continue to not only educate, our school community about these sister cities relationships that we have, but how do we also want to engage our student community in sister city partnerships and or engage them in a way that that is consistent with the mission of Sister Cities International, which is to create, citizen, to create sort of, what is the phrase that they always use? Citizen diplomats, but that's not a political role, just citizen diplomats, people who are informed about the world outside of our community, who understand that our community has made connections, engage kids. And I think it is our job on the education committee to be thinking about that and to be coming up with some ideas or some to be developing, to be coming up with some ideas, brainstorming ideas, and then inviting folks to help us implement those in using community partners and resources that are in the community. And I do see that very clearly as
Sure.
what the education committee should be continuing to do.
I agree.
So-
Well, and I don't think we can be so passive as to totally be dependent on
No,
grantees winning grants.
no.
I mean, I think it's ideal if we have people winning grants that fit well into our goals. But obviously, if we have no one who writes a proposal that fits, naturally, that's where we come in and and working to find some other activities to host.
Yeah.
Or work with, or develop.
So I wanted to say, Damon, with regard to goal 3. So what we did over this past year, is the committee met last fall, and we liked the idea of planning an educational event that would engage individual local students in some way to begin to enunciate or to explore the connection that we have to our sister cities. And when we discovered that Sister Cities International has this annual contest for students in member sister cities between the ages of 13 and 18, it seemed like a beautiful way to try to achieve, sort of speak to the spirit of that goal. The Sister Cities International contest, they come up with a theme every year. And so it did not end up exactly being the goal that we set, which was to have local students somehow or another engage through an artistic or an educational medium with our sister cities. But what it did do was to invite students to be thinking about global issues. And I think it's still a worthy, I feel like that goal 3, I could give some thought to how that if we want to have that as an ongoing goal, because it feels like something that we're still very interested in. It's a way to partner with Sister Cities International, since we're a member commission, and it's a way to draw students into sort of the conversation about global issues. It also, in a way that can be more targeted going forward, it's a way to provide students with some awareness and education that we have a sister city commission and that we have 4 sister cities. And so I think I could sort of spend some time, revisiting that goal and frame out, if you would like, frame it out in such a way that it more accurately captures, what involvement with the Young Artists and Authors Showcase, is achieving, kind of, and what would be the mission of doing that, and a way in which I think that would feel like it does speak to our mission as a commission, And so if you'd like me to, I can, you know, spend some time revisiting that as a goal for 2022 and try to sort of craft it, you know, look at the language and run a draft past you and sort of craft it in such a way that it feels like the event or the activity, the project that we're wanting to sponsor, because we have to be, quote, the official sponsor of it, does fit, you know, is a good fit for a goal that we've set, you know, in terms of the education committee.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. If you would do that, that would be much appreciated.
Okay.
And I'll also go back and look at the other goals, and the second one, you know, recraft it to where it has a more grantee focus. And then we can both be thinking about the first goal and, you know, where we want to go with that, you know, if at all, and also we can be thinking if there is a goal that we don't currently have stated that we think ought to be added.
And I also feel like, frankly, you know, one of our committee goals needs to be to fill the K-12 position.
I think that's reasonable.
I mean, honestly, to orient that person, you know, to the commission, fill that position, orient that person to the commission, and then give that person an opportunity to share with us what are some of the educational objectives within the school system that seem to be a good fit or a good intersection for our work as a commission. And I allow room for that person to help craft ongoing projects or ideas that we'd like to implement, that we'd like to support, that we'd like to find people to help us implement, or that we'd like simply to endorse, you know? So I think we kind of have to leave some space. I know we're doing draft goals for the meeting that's coming up, but I feel like we have to leave some space for those to be added to once we actually have a K-12 commissioner.
Absolutely. That sounds, you know, once we get a new K-12 commission member, we absolutely want their input.
Absolutely.
We want them to jump in and have great ideas. And, you know, if they are, you know, outside of our goals, obviously we're not going to limit ourselves. Hi, Stella. Don't leave us.
Hi.
We were just wrapping up the education portion, and I think we're all
Okay.
probably on this next period anyway.
Okay, well, I'll work on some language around the ongoing, it's called YAAS initiative, and then, you know, run that by you. I mean, I'll have it ready for the meeting next week. How's that
Okay,
sound?
great. That sounds wonderful. Thank
And
you.
you want to work on recrafting a little bit the language of that second goal?
Sure, yes, I'll work on
Okay.
that, and I'll also follow up or reach out to City School Central Office to try and get them at least thinking about and hopefully pointing us towards a new K through 12 member.
Okay, great. Thank you, Damon.
Good, thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah.
Wish we could see your face.
I'm sorry. I'll turn it myself on again. Maybe I'll hold on. My kids are not on the internet now, so maybe I won't freeze.
Are you going to transition to the sister city stuff now?
I think so. I think we're moving to the city rep session.
Okay.
City reps, and I think so. I think we have everybody. I don't know if I don't know if Nana is going to be here.
Okay.
So, sorry, this is Dave. I just am leaving Nana's house. I was in a meeting with Nana at his house with some other people, and the meeting is running late. So he has asked me to represent him for the Sister City Reps conversation. He apologizes he can't be here himself. So,
Sure.
and
Thanks for being
yeah, I'm driving home, but I'll be live in person here shortly.
okay. Sounds good.
And Damon, I forget the order in which you wanted us to present, but I do have to be able to join in a class that I take that starts promptly at 6.
Sure. Well, why don't you start for us today?
Okay, I will be happy to. So can everybody hear me, including Damon and
I hear you.
Stella? Or hi, Stella, are you still in Italia? Oh.
Yes, so I left my passport to the American consulate. They said that after November 8th, they can give me the visa and they will send it to my house. So I'll wait until tomorrow and then I'll see. I didn't receive an email or anything. I don't know if I'm supposed to. So
All
I'll
right,
tomorrow
fingers
and then
crossed.
I'll write to them. Yes.
Well, hopefully one of these days we can actually all be together in person.
I know, I can hardly wait for that.
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, at first in Zoom, it was something like something new, but now I'm like, okay.
I'm over it.
Now we
Yeah.
want humans. All right, Elizabeth, well, why don't you
Okay.
go right ahead?
So I'm working on my 2022 goals, obviously, as Besançon rep, and I'll have at least a draft of those to share at the meeting next week. Some of the goals that I set for 2021 are still ongoing. And, you know, at this point, I would say what's going to be ongoing is continuing to try to kind of, you know, stay on top of and usher along some of these particular exchanges that were either put in place and had to be suspended because of the pandemic, or put in place and just had to be deferred. So I see it, you know, like one of the things I'd like to do is stay in touch with the key people who are helping to make those things happen, and just, you know, stay regular contact and find out, you know, is the jazz musician coming as planned in the spring of 2022? And we've now had a request from another musician who was here in 2019 and would like to return. So, you know, if there are folks in the community who can come together and really organize and oversee all that's involved in hosting and, you know, setting up engagements for that person, you know, I'll sort of, you know, try to stay looped in about that. So that's going to be, you know, I see that as an ongoing goal. I have been rolling this around in my head for several months, and I think one of my major goals for 2022 is going to be to really work on trying to create, in our bylaws, I think it's referred to as a standing committee, which may or may not be, you know, the best name for it, but I really feel that for Besançon, we need to have some kind of advisory council or some kind of standing committee, something that might be called, for example, Friends of Besançon. That is a group of volunteers, all of whom have some particular interest or connection to our French sister city, all of whom have an investment in ongoing exchanges with our French sister city, and who are willing to sort of be available to help implement logistics when we have a request. Because, you know, unlike Winneba, which has the Winneba Foundation kind of to help it implement some, you know, a lot of stuff, and the Weiwei Tanunga, which has the Ishtatan Foundation, Stella and I don't have that. And I'm discovering it's pretty tough being a committee of one and being able to, you know, respond to people when they are, you know, are asking for support and assistance. A really good example is the issue that we discussed last month in our meeting around this Face-to-Face International project, where Alan and Christina reached out to each of the sister city reps and asked the reps to find the subjects for that project. which I think probably we're all trying to help with, but you know, is not necessarily the best way that I can help. You know, the best way that I could help would have been to connect them to people in Charlottesville who have contacts, friends, acquaintances, colleagues in Besançon that they are in regular touch with, as the way to recruit and invite residents of our sister city to participate. So to me, what that highlights is, you know, for Besançon, we don't have kind of we don't have an organization or a committee or a kind of even a loose collection of people in place who stand ready to step in and help with hosting, with transportation, with organizing tours and events, with connecting visitors to, you know, schools when they want to come, or for that matter, with connecting folks to, you know, contacts in the sister city. And I'd really like, if nothing else, I'd like as a legacy, I'd like to be able to begin the process of creating something like that to support the activity of the Besançon Rep. So that's really going to be a new primary goal for me in 2022, is to put some energy into seeing if we can create kind of a Friends of Besançon. I think my understanding is that in the past, the Besançon Rep leaned rather heavily on the Alliance Française to sort of be an arm or an extension for sister city things. And I think depending on the year, depending on who the director of that organization was, and depending on the relationship that the Besançon Rep had with the Alliance Française, that would sometimes be welcome and sometimes not. And the Alliance Française has its own mission, and its mission is not to be, you know, the extension of the Besançon sister city, the sister city mission. So I have no doubt they support our work, and there are people there who stand ready to step up and volunteer and host and have an interest and continue to support us. But I don't think we can just continue to assume that the Alliance Française is sort of the Besançon Rep's informal kind of standing committee, because that's not what they want to be. And now that I have a pretty clear understanding of that, I'm just going to be working on seeing if, you know, I can, you know, sort of constitute or reconstitute if that happened to exist before. So that's my main goal, and I'll stop there because I know others need to, you know, have to share what they're thinking about as well.
Is there and I know I want to move on to the next cities, but is there a like a Facebook group for Charlottesville Francophiles or something like that, that is in addition to the Alliance Française? Or
that is a great question, Damon, and I am not on Facebook, so I don't know the answer to that.
I mean,
and that
like there is a German one, at least one, probably multiple. I mean, the person that comes to my mind is Edward Herring. I don't know if you know.
Yes, I know Ed Herring. Yeah, I will reach out to him and I'll find out about that. In my role as Besançon Rep, if there was such a Facebook group, or if there was an interest or a need, or we as a commission wanted to establish one, I would do that. I'd be happy to do that as the Besançon Rep in such a way that it can then be passed from rep to rep over the years. But I personally am not a Facebook user, and that's an intentional choice that I have made. And so I do understand that puts me at a bit of a disadvantage. But I think that, you know, I think I can work around that. And I'm glad you mentioned him, because he is a long-term friend of Besançon. And he's been on the Sister City Commission, and he's currently on the board at the Alliance Française. So he's a good person to reach out to, and I'll make a note to do that. That would be a great group to tap into.
Yeah, oh gosh.
to support this kind of, this concept that I've been playing around with.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Stella, Dave, who would like to go next? How about Stella? You're on my right.
Okay, so nothing really new, honestly. I mean, it's interesting that I will talk also about the project face to face that Elizabeth was talking about, because actually when Christina asked me for help, I gave her the contact of the vice mayor, okay, Giacomo Mari. And they talked about it. And this is interesting because apparently Poggio, I didn't really had this impression before, but they would really like to do things and events and exchanges with the local schools a lot. I mean, they want to involve the local schools a lot in order to do things with Charlottesville schools. So for this project, they decided to, they had to choose 2 people from Poggio, and they chose 2 students from the local middle school. And Giacomo called me because I wasn't in all the emails, so he called me to ask me if I knew something. And he said that for them it was important to try to, to involve the school, and this project for them was like, okay, we chose 2 students, so the school is involved, and hopefully later there will be, I don't know, anything else with the school. So I think that I would like, I mean, we talked about it a little bit some time ago, but we need to find, I would like to find some kind of project that this School of Charlottesville and the schools of Poggio can do together. We need to keep in mind that the reality is different. So in Poggio, we only have like middle schools. So there is no high school. So you need to find, I don't know, some kind of exchange where the students are more or less the same age. I mean, it depends what we want to do, but when I come back to Charlottesville, maybe if possible, I would like to go and try to talk with some people in some school in Charlottesville, because I think it's easier than just write an email at some point, maybe if you set up a meeting, maybe it's easy just, I don't know anyone in the school system. So apart from UVA, of course, but that's another thing. So I would like to try to talk with, I know that Jackson Baya, I think it's a middle school. They do some projects in which they talked about the sister cities. I don't know if it was something they did 1 year at some point, but every class has one sister city and they have to do research about it. So I don't know, maybe that's one school that I can think of. And of course I need to, I don't know anyone also in the school in Poggio, so I also need to keep contact with them. So I don't know if, I mean, that's what I would like to do. I need to talk to also to the people in the city hall, because I mean, in Italy, the school and the local government, of course, it's pretty much related a lot. So, I mean, you want to involve them anyway. So I tried to call him today anyway to talk about it, but he didn't answer. So I'll try to call him tomorrow again. So I don't know exactly what, but I think that we can think of any kind of projects. I don't know, maybe also some kind of language project. I mean, the people, yes.
So Stella, when you get back to Charlottesville, I want to invite you to reach out to me individually about this.
Yes.
I can tell you about a model that's already happening in a local elementary school in Charlottesville with an elementary school in Besançon.
Okay.
Where there is a very robust ongoing pen pal exchange. The students are too young to be able to go on an independent exchange, right? But
Mhm.
these two teachers have been able to establish relationships with teachers in an elementary school in Besançon, and they have a really exciting thing going. And that could be, I can share contact information, so you could reach out to them to talk to them about what they do. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you about how they set it up and what works and what doesn't work. But I can also, talk with you more about what it is. I had a long conversation with them about that this summer, and I can share more with you about how that seems to work. And that might be one model that you could pursue at the middle school level,
Mhm.
since most of the
That's all.
exchanges happen at the high school level. And it's a little bit trickier to do exchanges with kids that are that much younger, right? But there could be some other models that would work just fine.
Yeah, I was
So reach
thinking
out to me
also,
when you get back, and
Sure.
we'll make a meeting.
because also the language, I mean, they study English, so
Yeah,
like with that, you can say, okay, we have the sister city in the US and we can do some kind of language exchange,
yeah.
The problem is only like, again, to talk to people and to find somebody and want to do that, teachers or principals or whatever.
You have to have teachers involved. You have to have teachers
Yeah.
invested, because they're the ones that make it happen. But, just reach out to me when you get back, and we'll set up a meeting, and I'll share with you what I know
Yeah.
about that. If that would be
Yeah,
helpful to
okay,
you.
thank you. That would be helpful, yeah. And tomorrow, or anyway, when I can talk to Giacomo, I can ask him if they have some kind of contact. I'm sure, I mean, they do. I mean, if they can give me any email or whatever with some English teacher or whatever in that school, so I can maybe talk to them. So that I don't arrive at some point and I mean, they don't even know who I am, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that could be a good idea, because I mean, the school is also something that, when people grow up, then maybe there are still some kind of, I mean, they make,
Connections.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So yeah, maybe that would be a good idea, yeah.
Well, that sounds great. Maybe if you could try to put your goal on paper, like try to write down a goal at some point so we can
Yeah.
add that to our overall 2022 goal document. But sounds like a great plan.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave, want to shoot?
Sure. Yeah, this all sounds wonderful. And Elizabeth, actually the idea that you have about some kind of an advisory group or support group of some sort, that's exactly how the Charlottesville Winneba Foundation got started. Was we created just a sort of a loose knit group of people that had an interest in nurturing this relationship with Winneba, and over time it formalized into this foundation that we have now. So I applaud you, and anything we can do to help, let me know. So
Thank you. Were you involved in the formation of the foundation, Dave?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time I was the president of the board of the foundation, and now I'm switched hats and I'm the unpaid executive director of the foundation.
Yeah. Well, it's pie in the sky perhaps to think about something like that, but I might very well reach out to you to pick your brain, because this would be a new experience for me, in terms of I've been thinking a lot about it, and I could benefit from the wisdom of people who've gone down that road before, in terms of how do you go about beginning to extend invitations, tap people, talk to them in a way that allows them to become involved. So I might take you up on that, just kind of,
Sure.
Meet over coffee and pick your brain about that process. Thank you.
Happy. Sounds good. Yeah, lots happening right now with Winneba. Nana Garty and I and John J. Baden Amasaw is the vice president of the Charlottesville Winneba Foundation. Had a delightful time last week. We were invited through Sister Cities International to go to an event at the Ghana Embassy in DC to welcome Ghana's first female ambassador to the United States. So that was very exciting, and she's lovely, and she's a former member of parliament in Ghana, and really enjoyed meeting her. And she seemed, and the best part of it is, as a member of parliament from her community, she was very much involved in a sister city partnership between her community and Louisville, Kentucky, of all places. And so is very familiar with sister cities and their value. And so when she heard, we had a chance to chat with her, and when she heard that we were involved in the sister city project between Charlottesville and Winneba, she got very excited and said she'd be happy to support us however she can. So it was a great event. And but right now we're thick in the planning. We've got another group going from Charlottesville to Winneba at the end of December. It looks like it's going to be 20 people on this particular trip. To be our third largest trip ever to Ghana. Very excited about that. Spend about 11 or 12 days in Ghana. So that's just takes a lot of work to organize any of those kinds of trips. So heavy into those preparations now. We also have a big fundraising event coming up on December 2nd at the Paramount. It'll be a benefit concert, and I'm not at liberty just yet. Hopefully in the next 24 hours, I can announce all the details, but we've got a really talented group of musicians and dancers that'll be performing on December 2nd. We'll get the word out to everybody on the commission and the whole Charlottesville community, and hopefully people will come out and enjoy themselves and raise a good bit of money to support the Charlottesville Winneba Foundation. So also had been making some inroads. We've been trying for years to get more traction at UVA, to get UVA more involved with the Charlottesville Winneba Sister City Partnership. Actually, the meeting I was just in with Nana Garti was with some student leaders of the Organization of African Students at UVA, to try to talk about ways they can get involved and vice versa, ways we can support them. So that was a very fruitful conversation. In fact, it's still going on. Yeah, so lots bubbling up. On the next city council agenda next week, next Monday, I believe, there will be a proposal before council. Fire safety has been one of the focus areas between Charlottesville and Winneba. We have a fire safety partnership supported by grant funds from the Sister City Commission. Winneba has a very under-resourced fire service, and they've been asking for firefighting equipment and gear, and the new fire chief here in Charlottesville, Hezadine Smith, has a history with international fire safety partnerships going back many years, and he's really on board now with the Charlottesville Winneba relationship and the fire safety partnership. In fact, he's coming on the December trip with us to Winneba. But they had a surplus fire engine. The Charlottesville Fire Department has a surplus fire engine that they're no longer using, and he has offered to donate it to the fire service in Winneba. So they are thrilled, but it has to first get approval from City Council before we can ship it over to Winneba. So that'll be on next Monday's City Council meeting. So we're pretty excited about that. And yeah, lots of other stuff, but that's the highlights.
Cool. This thought that came to mind, when you ship a fire truck over there, let's say that it has mechanical problems, where do you come up with parts? How does that work? Yeah.
Well, and I will say the first thing that Chief Smith did was to have it inspected, make sure it's in good shape, good working order. So yeah, some parts are more universal than others, and they do have fire engines in Ghana. So presumably, if they need parts in the future and they can't locate them, our fire department will help them identify sources for certain parts. And that's a good question.
I don't know if there were like issues with the metric system or.
Oh no, they don't use. Yeah, I mean it's equivalent enough to where, but they're very excited to receive the fire engine. So yeah.
maybe think about like goals for the new year at some point that we can put together.
Sure.
Well, I'm glad that you all are working with the African Student Association. I've worked with them hosting, they were a partner on an event with that I hosted with the ambassador of Mozambique a couple
Oh,
of years
great.
ago. Yeah. And I would love to work on recruiting the ambassador of Ghana to an event here. Maybe, a partnership between the Center for Politics and the Commission on, a public event, and then also maybe something else in the city that would, be direct, and it could be also in partnership with the Winneba Foundation, of course. We should chat about that. I
Yeah.
think that'd be really great.
That'd be awesome. Every spring, the Ghana Association of Charlottesville organizes a Ghana Independence Day dinner at Tonsler Park. So maybe we could do something in conjunction with that, since the whole Ghanaian comes out for that. And I'm sure they see the ambassador come down. So anyhow, just one idea.
I like that. Cool. Yeah. And I'm actually starting to recruit ambassadors for the springtime. So we should chat sooner rather than later.
Sounds good.
What month is that typically?
I believe it's in March.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I always like to make sure that things like that happen when we have students. So March is good. All right, cool. Okay.
What
well,
about Wayway goals? Do you,
Yeah,
Damon, are
Wayway.
you going to tap somebody? Or is that going to be you?
Well, I think that it kind of is me for now.
For
We
now.
don't really have anyone at this time that is tasked with Wayway. I think one thing that we need to help them with, and I've reached out to our friend Fred, the head of Virginia Sister Cities,
Yeah.
about trying to see if Sister Cities International has resources that they can share, or expertise that they can share to help them further establish their commission.
Right.
'Cause I
Like
think
a
that's
kit or something.
a kid or an advisor, someone who speaks Spanish, obviously. I have to believe there are people out there who have experience, and I did email Fred and I haven't heard back from him. I'll follow up with him. But I think that's one thing one goal that I think we need to have is to assist them with trying to get a commission really fully up and running, because I don't think they're not there yet. We are blessed with the Ishtatan Foundation, as you mentioned, here in Charlottesville. And I've kind of been wondering if there is a more formal role for that organization. I think I recall or for LES also, but I think I recall while reading through our bylaws and whatnot, that there is a more formal role for organizations as that are directly, working with the cities that we are. That gives them a little bit more involvement in what we do. Maybe I don't think it would hurt, even if we didn't formally have a commission member from there, but someone who was involved in the organization that actually participated in our meetings. I mean, maybe they would need to be an invited guest while we don't formally have a Wayway member. But I think, having me represent Wayway is definitely short shrift for Wayway. They need somebody who has a real connection, preferably to the city. Someone who speaks Spanish would be good. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm a placeholder. I'm definitely just a placeholder for Wayway. But that is one goal that I have for them, is to assist them in the establishment of their commission. I also would like to, probably about a year from now, host an event with the ambassador of Guatemala, and have it be an event, in partnership with the Sister Cities Commission and probably Ishtatan Foundation. And hopefully the mayor, at that time would be interested in being involved. I think hopefully within a year, we'll have some more development towards Weiwei's establishment as a sister city. Who knows, maybe within a year, that might be enough time to get us established full-fledged as sister cities. Wouldn't that be exciting? So yeah, I look for hopefully a big event this time next year that would really be public, and who knows? I mean, maybe there could even be representation in addition to the ambassador from Weiwei, maybe a public official, who knows? But I think we have a ways to go still. We definitely, as we, begin our grants committee, our grants, outreach, we definitely want to recruit, grantees who are interested in Weiwei and see where that goes. I know that Elias is interested. Elias was interested in creating a grant that would fund him to go over there and help with resources and help them establish their Sister Cities Commission. And maybe that's something that, obviously we've not seen a full proposal on that.
Well,
Maybe
he could maybe also apply for a travel scholarship if, that would be if we get those established, that's like, I think, a great example of a way in which we might want to support someone to travel to our sister city, for the benefit of the sister city relationship in some way. And
Sure.
so whether or not, he needs to put together a whole grant, or if he, maybe, he could consider, that might be something just to sort of, we'll see where that travel scholarship part goes, but even if he wasn't able to put together an entire grant proposal, he might be very eligible for a travel scholarship.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
To
he
help,
is such a valuable resource for
Mhm.
us, as is the foundation. Yeah.
So Damon, I was just remembering, I wonder if it would, if this wouldn't be a good time to reach out to Erin Hewley Comers, who, joined, she joined, she joined a committee meeting, a couple of committee meetings at the May meeting, and she joined in the meet and greet with all of the officials from Weiwei. And to encourage her to consider applying for an at-large position that could sort of informally be designated for a particular interest in Weiwei and Friendship City matters.
Mhm.
And it occurs to me that she may not be paying attention to the application timeline. And what do you think about the idea of reaching out to her and encouraging her to apply?
I have put a star by this note, and I will email her.
Okay.
Yeah, she's obviously expressed a lot of interest in it, and I'm glad you brought her up, because frankly, she had slipped my mind, but she's definitely shown a lot of interest. And anyone who's showing an interest, I think we have to go after and try and
I agree.
get them to apply, and hopefully the city council would, consider her application, even if she doesn't live within the city border.
I don't know about that piece, but
But at a minimum, if she's an energetic applicant with a lot of ideas, gosh, I think it's to the benefit of the city.
So Damon, just as a follow-up to that, I recently became acquainted with a cardiac doctor at UVA who's from Guatemala and is very familiar with Weiwei, and was terribly excited when he learned that we were pursuing a sister city connection between Charlottesville and Weiwei. And I'm going to I'll forward you his information. He said if he can be of any help, if somebody has strong connections in Guatemala. He's happy to help. So,
Cool. All right, great. Hey, thanks.
and then we also got to meet Fred last week when we were in DC.
Oh, I bet. How was
Yeah,
Fred?
Fred's great. I'd never met him in person. I've seen his emails forever, but so I didn't realize he lives in Stanton. He's like right next door. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So he's very happy to help in any way he can. So,
Yeah, if ever we meet in person, we could invite him as a guest sometime.
absolutely.
I'm sure he would come. I'm sure he'd be glad
Yeah,
to.
he said he'd be happy to. So,
He seems to be all in for Citrus Cities International.
Yep, yep.
That sounds great. Cool. Okay. Well, those are my key points. Does anyone else have any thoughts that they would like to add on Weiwei? I have to say, I do love their coffee. I have Weiwei coffee in my house right now.
So are you going to perhaps, one of the things that we all committed to at the retreat was that we would have at least a first draft of 2022 goals, I think for the November meeting. So that includes you. If you're going to be our proxy Weiwei, are you going to, will you just send a reminder around? I mean, I know I could use the prompt and the reminder. Sure. And
yes.
Is it all right with you if we just bring those with us to the meeting, or do you want us to try to send those to you ahead of time?
I think you can bring them to the meeting for conversation. I think that'd be fine. Okay, yes, I have a star by that one. Good. All right, well, does anyone else have anything they'd like to add on any of our cities or? Well, all right, I guess then we wrapped up 4 minutes early.
All right, well, I'm going to sign off so I can take a break before my next. Good to see you guys. Thank you, Damon.
Thank you.
See you next week.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
I think next is our outreach committee. I don't know if either of you all are on outreach.
No, but I'll be back at 6:45. I think it is for the grants committee. So,
yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, I will see
you
then.
Thank you.
See you later. Stella, are you on outreach? I forget.
Yes, I am.
Cool. That sounds good. Well, I will keep you company until somebody else gets here.
Okay, good.
How is everything in Poggio? What's the weather like there right now?
It's strangely windy. There is a lot of wind in these days for some reason.
Yeah.
Normally, I mean, it's getting cold, but sometimes it's also like during the day it's very warm. So I don't know.
Sounds like we have about the same weather. It's hovering around like today. I think the high was about 75 Fahrenheit, and it's been around 40 at night. And but the last 4 or 5 days, it was freezing or a little below freezing. So you can definitely feel fall is in the air, no doubt.
Yeah, like today, the day, like without the jacket, you were fine. And now it's very cold. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely, it is a good time for pumpkin picking, all that good stuff.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
One crazy thing right now is we have, at least where I am, and I think it's across the area, we have this infestation of Asian ladybugs.
I read about it on Nextdoor. What I mean,
I've got I'm looking up on my lamp in my house, and I see at least probably 30 ladybugs hovering on my little light up above there. They seem to be very happy. Hi, Adrian.
Weird.
How are you doing? Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. Well, since I see Adrian is here, I'm gonna leave you with her, and then I will catch back up after your meeting at about 6:45.
Okay, I'll see you later then.
All right, we'll see you later. I'll just take my video and so.
Hi, how are you? I think you're muted.
you have news about the lifting of restrictions.
Yes, so I left my passport to the American consulate and they said that they could give me the visa after November 8th. And so I'm waiting for them to, I mean, they should send it here to my house, but I didn't ask when. So I don't know if I'm supposed to receive an email or anything. So I'll wait until tomorrow and then I'll see if I should write to them again. So, yeah, hopefully I can leave next week, maybe, I don't know.
And so you have two issues. One was the allowing international citizens to come into the States who have been vaccinated. And the second one, you had to renew a visa or something?
Yes, because I had to renew the visa. If the visa was valid, technically I could like spend 2 weeks in Mexico or whatever, and then you could enter. But without the visa, I couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah,
So yeah.
tricky. And the same with Francesca hasn't been able to come back either, right?
Yeah,
Because-
she has the same problem. They actually gave her the appointment and she went and they rejected it. I mean, they told her they couldn't do it. So they told her to go and then, I mean, she went to Rome and then when she arrived in Rome, they were like, oh, sorry, we can't. So, I mean, at least with me, they told me by email. When I asked in July, they were like, no, we cannot do that yet. So.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, how crazy. And then does it make sense for you to, I mean, what did you have to do with your apartment?
In Italy or
Here in Charlottesville?
I'm renting and there is a friend that is going sometimes to check the mail or this kind of things. Yes. So, I mean.
Does it make sense for you to come back? Well, you may want to come back just because you want to come back, but as far as teaching, the semester is coming to a close in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, but I want to come because also I have 2 weddings. So one on December 31, and one in January.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I mean, I just want to come back a little earlier to do some stuff in the house, I mean, to check
Sure.
everything. So.
Sure. And you've had, I imagine part of you is like, okay, I've been in Italy plenty of time. I'm ready to.
Yes, also.
Yeah. And I don't know, I wonder, I haven't talked to Francesca in a long time. I wonder if she might wait until maybe January because.
I don't know. She didn't say. She said that she had to take the new appointment in November, like me. But
Oh.
I don't know if when she got it or anything. So.
Yeah. Do you know if Michael is planning to come to this meeting? Have we had any input from him?
I don't know. He sent an email before.
He did say it. He said, consider the business of the budget.
Oh, yes, yes. But I don't think he said.
Maybe he's just running a couple minutes late.
Yeah, maybe.
I have to pull up those goals.
Mhm.
You know, I feel sort of like with where is that? I'm having a regressive moment with internet. Just one moment. Oh, here we go. Is that it? Yeah.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Michael.
Hello, how are you? Sorry I'm late.
We were just talking about looking, reviewing the goals, and to even before we look at those, my main thing with outreach is that we I feel like we need, more than anything, to have some kind of a schedule, a calendar, a schedule, and have the city reps and appropriate subcommittees, for example, grants would be one. Any subcommittee that has some material that can be promoted, like promotable stuff, promotable content, that, you know, we have some kind of a schedule that we know that every month we're going to get some info from people. Even, you know, even if nothing needs to be ground shaking. It can be, you know, just to keep the sister city alive on the platforms. So I have a feeling that's one of our goals already.
I definitely agree with that. I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, so maybe we, what do we have here? The first one, website content updates. I think it seems like that's been done, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does also fall into that idea of having some scheduled things that go up there.
Right.
But the major stuff was done.
Right. Especially, it was probably around when we knew the grant stuff was really getting underway, and people would be referencing that website for sure.
Mhm.
And so goal number one, I think, is for the moment it's completed. Goal number two, create a communications governance structure and future plan. Is that sort of what I'm talking about? I'm not sure about governance structure, but update frequency,
Yep.
approvals and associated processes.
Yeah, so I think the update frequency,
Yeah.
one way to manage that would be some sort of calendar and reminders to people to say, hey, we want to try and do an update to Instagram once a week, twice a week, once a month, you know, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, maybe some automated reminders to the team to say, hey, do you have something you want to share on Instagram?
Okay. Do we want to, well, I guess we can just look at, I was thinking we take our little time that we have here and maybe just put something down. I could take some notes and just get a little bit of a draft of what that would look like.
Okay.
Even if we have to fill in more later, but just start. But I just was going to look at goal number 3 and 4. Goal number 3, draft a plan for the future of the website and social media accounts, including deciding on whether we want to move content to the Charlottesville. Okay, that doesn't feel quite as urgent, but it is important.
Right.
And identify a secondary person to manage the Wix website. Okay, that's our sort of our sister city website, right? What do you two think? I'm feeling just a little bit of energy toward goal number 2. Just
Fine. Let's start where we have energy.
yeah, because I don't know how long. This is a hard one today, this meeting at this time. And when I heard that it might be canceled, was I alone in thinking it wasn't breaking my heart?
The scheduling today in the evening has been a little tough for me. So
Yeah.
okay, that could work, but
Right. So do you think we have share screen and you guys could see what I'm typing?
sure.
Do we know?
If you don't have the ability to right now, Lasheen should be able to enable it.
Okay. Let me give it a try here. What am I looking for? I'm just maybe gonna do this and open up a new doc.
Yeah.
Or actually, never mind, get rid of that. You see, I had a few notes here. I'll get rid of this grants, move that out of the picture. So what I was saying with outreach, only thing I can think of is devise a schedule content updates and stuff. And I also had a note here. We need to improve on our email response. Because right now it sounds like Amanda is checking that email. But it might be, and I'm not sure how it's supposed to work, if there's a way, but it seems like either she's busy with, her regular job or et cetera. And sometimes those emails aren't getting checked. And then especially when there are grantees or anyone, asking for information, I think we've got to figure out a way that works a little bit better there. But anyway, going back to the goals, we had, this is just brainstorming here. Maybe once a month, each I can pull from here, each city rep and appropriate subcommittee provides outreach with some material to feature on our platforms.
That seems achievable. As Damon, I mean, is that too aggressive or?
I don't think Damon's here, Michael, because
okay.
Yeah, he's going to come back in for the grants committee in half an hour or 45 minutes.
Okay, alrighty.
I don't have that goals right in front of me. Oh, here it is. I don't know, but I don't know if you see
I have them
it.
right here.
I can pull it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was what it said. Create a governance structure, including update frequency. So this responds to update frequency. So we could, it wouldn't be hard to have I'm kind of chart crazed sometimes, and have a chart that says January, February, March, and
so what a lot of companies or like bloggers will do is they'll write stuff ahead of time and schedule it to go out at certain times. So you're not always like, oh, darn, I gotta like write something up and get it out for tomorrow, or I'm 2 days overdue writing something. Like
right.
When you know that you have something that's coming up in 3 or 4 months, you go ahead and write it and then schedule it for a month or two out. And
so essentially what we could say is from Elizabeth, Stella, we don't have the way person yet, and Nana, we will need from you in a, maybe in a month or whatever the, comfortable timeline is. We will need from you a minimum 6, ideally 12 short visuals with captions. Or I mean, maybe you don't, they just want to do it once every month on the fly. It doesn't really matter, but we can say, here's what you can do if you just want to sit down and do it all at once, and then give it to us and don't worry about it for a while. Maybe 6 months at a time, 6 months worth. And, it might, maybe 3 months worth quarterly. So it's not a burden, and maybe that allows for things to change or something new to come into the picture. And maybe maybe this is an agenda item and we say, hey, we want to institute some kind of a schedule. What's the most comfortable for you people who will need to be providing the content? But our aim is that once a month there would be something from each of the 4 cities, and the grants can always should, in my view, and I'm on the grant subcommittee, should always be able to provide something, you know. And I can't, obviously the budget subcommittee wouldn't be producing content in that same way. And what are the other subcommittees? Education, they could be one. So what about governance structure? What does
So when we wrote that, my memory was that we were thinking like a kind of a Word doc that just says like, here are the social media accounts that we have. Here's how frequently we want to update them. Here's what approvals we need in order to post something, if any, and here's who can give those approvals. So right now we're kind of a free-for-all, like, you know, we all have access to the shared passwords and account names. And so if I wanted to, I could sign into Instagram and post something. And so do I need to, or should I, as a best practice, run it by, you know, one or all of you to say, hey, does this look good before I hit send? I think some places that makes sense to have a little bit more eyes on it, just to make sure we don't have typos or other things. Other times, I think it may be overly burdensome to, you know, if you're just saying, hey, here's a cool new headline from, you know, Besançon, or hey, you know, our firefighters just went to Winneba, check out this thing that NBC 29 did on them. Like, that probably doesn't need a lot of review. But if we're creating a bunch of content, then it might be helpful to have at least a second pair of eyes on what it looks like. But now, you know, if the particularly the city reps, you know, if they're creating the content, like, I don't know any better. I mean, the best I can do is a spelling check, like, you know. So I think what that review would look like may depend on who's creating the content. And then the associated processes would be like, you know, so if we've said we're going to do it monthly, so then what that really means is that at every meeting we have a standing agenda item that says, hey, think about next month and the month after, what are things that you want to tell us about or tell the world about, and when do you think you'll have the ability to create that, or do you need help creating that, or whatever.
I think if we had a clear document to sort of give to the providers, and we have one clear document that's about our governance structure and how we work and what our processes are and all. But then the document I'm now referring to is the one that we give to Stella and Amanda, or, you know, me on grants, or whoever these, it's sort of 4 cities plus grants and education. So maybe, you know, there are six people, or, you know, 6 content providers. And that document says, here's what we need by when. And here's who to send it to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of.
Yeah, just what you were just saying, right? What are you thinking, Stella?
I think it's fine. I mean, I think it's reasonable to have a schedule
Sorry.
one. Like once a month, yeah.
So the content provider's instructions, so to speak, just thinking that through, if the frequency is once a month, each of them provide us with some material. What is that material? One visual. Do we need to specify what that is? That visual in any particular format? Can it be a JPEG, a PNG, or whatever?
Most platforms are generally agnostic about it. Sometimes things like Twitter's gotten better about it, but you used to want to like have certain sizing on it, like it couldn't be too big. I think Instagram is fairly okay with whatever you put there. It'll just resize it.
Yeah.
Facebook, I think, is similar. What else? So we have the website. The website's kind of special purpose, but I would like to get some more content in there, particularly from some of the grants or some of our activities.
Right, like, you know, one of our most, I don't want to say well-performing grants, but it feels that way just because we hear from her the most often, Rachel
Yes.
McLaughlin, and you know, she held a little art exhibit at the Northside Library and featured the art that was produced. Her grant has been completed. She's done it with the Way cohort, and I was there, but I think it was Amanda Amanda was there too. She took a few pictures. Rachel took a bunch of pictures. But yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing we could have up on. If we still hold to this division, if each of those content providers, you know, kept to the schedule and just sent in an email to all three of us at once, you know, would that work? That then Michael gets to work putting it on the website. I get to work putting it on Instagram, Stella, you on Facebook. And it's the same material. It appears in the 3 spots.
Mhm.
That seems simple enough for the moment. Once a month doesn't, I mean, I have not been great putting anything up even once a month, but I have to kind of dig for it. Like,
Yeah, and so when that came around, like, Adrian, you sent out that kind of, hey, if you can, try and put something up and let people know that the exhibit's happening, which was good. You know, it was sort of last minute because we kind of, I don't know if we heard about it last minute. I don't remember what the details were, but so like I threw something on the Seville Slack because there's an announcements channel there just to say, hey, this is happening. But I didn't go and log into Twitter or the website and put anything there. And I don't know that, I think for some of those things, we can also send something to the city and say, hey, can you post this?
right. If we got more organized, I would be okay with adding to like city channel, maybe. Just
Right.
and the city channel just being Lachine. Like, here, Lachine, here's a visual and a caption, you know, something on Sister City. And, you know, I'm not even familiar with, I mean, apart from the Daily Progress, what, is there a city channel is there some sort of a platform or something akin to what the 3 of us are doing on our Facebook and website?
So there is a public, I mean, like you can get them to put them on the city public announcements website,
Okay.
that part of the website that says like, here's stuff that's happening.
Oh, okay. That would be
and
good.
We did that once for the grants. Like when we announced the grants, we had them publish it. And I think you wrote some of the content for that. And I thought that there was something that you could also do separately for smaller stuff. There's a lot of unofficial channels. You know, there's a Seville Slack that's got, I don't know, probably 1,000+ people in it. But it's a lot of the same people. There's the local newspapers. There's the couple of like Twitter handles of like Seville News and some of those things.
I've always, or I've been under the impression that if we got something to Lachine, that it might go into multiple places from her. But I don't know, or me, not, I don't, you know, whoever the city liaison person is. But I've still not been clear on that. But anyway, we could, you know, begin small and say, and just keep feeding. That would be like 6 things coming to the 3 of us and to Lachine once a month. 6 updates, 6 reports, because we're talking about 4 cities and 2 subcommittees.
Yeah, so it'd be best if it was either the same content or if we had maybe slightly different content, but we schedule it as much in advance. So it's not, you know, some months for me are busier than others. You know, sometimes when I can get in the groove, I can sit down like 5 or 6 hours and just work on stuff. And I
Right.
could probably go through a bunch of things and get them scheduled and then not worry about it too much the next month.
But if you, this is a question for the 2 of you, and maybe I have to think about this too, obviously. If you received, I'm just trying to think it through. If there were 6 pieces of content, 6 visuals, and they each had a little caption, and we're getting those 6 things per month, and we say, you know what, we're going to do something on the 1st and on the 15th. And we just sit down and say, is it feasible, Michael, that you say, I've got 6, or maybe you say to yourself, I've got 6 things I'm going to do. I'm going to do 2 of them the 1/3 of the way through the month, 2 of them the 2/3 of the way through the month, and the last 2. Do you know what I mean? Like figuring out your work schedule, what makes sense for posting. But once we get the 6 things, it's the same thing for all 3 of us, and Lachine we'd send it on to Lachine too. Like it would be the same content.
Mhm.
So real quickly, the only thing I want to add to that conversation is that I know our communication department will include announcements like when the Sister Cities grant cycle is happening and you're looking for applications. Beyond that, we would have to discuss whether or not communications would send out any other announcement type things for the commission. We have not historically done that. So yeah, we would have to see whether or not that was feasible. At this point, it has not been done in the past. We only announced the grant.
Is that, Max, is that sort of an administrative decision, or is that something that city council has to weigh in on? Should you, or how does that work?
I would say it's been administrative.
Okay.
We don't send any other announcements like the kind that you're talking about for any of our other boards or commissions. So I'd say it's administrative, yes.
Okay.
I guess that I have a little confusion about that, because my multiple times I kept asking Brian about this in the beginning of my term. The feeling I got was, if you have announcements to make, the city has a whole bunch of places it can put it, and just give us the material, and
Yeah, so to the best of my recollection, I remember that conversation kind of being centered around grants. But it's definitely something that I can take back to Ms. Thomas and get her thoughts on it. It's just, you know, we aren't doing it. Well, I guess you guys are trying to formulate this whole process now, but we aren't doing it to date. We don't do it with any of our other boards and commissions, so it'd be
Okay.
something that would have to be discussed.
Okay, well, that would be helpful too, no matter what the outcome there is, it helpful for
Mhm.
us to put in our document about how we work, what our processes
Mhm.
are, which kinds of things we can pass on to the city for more publication, and what sorts of
Mhm.
things it falls to us to publicize. Yeah.
Okay, and you know, the other thing that I'm thinking of is your, the Sister Cities webpage, city webpage, has a link to the Sister City website. So, you know, people can definitely access any of your announcements or updates or your calendars or what have you in that way. So there's an option there, you know, there's another point of access.
Gotcha. So
Okay.
we have, and we have that covered in, for the moment, Michael sort of being the website adjuster. Maybe I can try to draft something and get it on the Google Drive, and not probably in time for the agenda next Tuesday. Unless I guess we don't have an agenda yet for next Tuesday, do we?
I imagine a portion of it will be talking about the budget, and also the outcomes of these subcommittee meetings. I think that feels like probably the 80% of what we'll be doing.
Well, maybe I can draft something in that will be a little in better shape than this, and we can just present it that night and just let like a single sheet, and just let people have some input, especially if they're going to be having to follow some kind of a schedule for providing us a little bit more info. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anybody, because we've been talking about it, and Elizabeth on occasion will say, you know, gee, I haven't provided much stuff. I mean, I think we've all been a little with the inertia of COVID and all, it's and full-time other jobs. We have room for improvement, at least here for this, you know, communications. Stella, would you ever be willing to try your hand at drafting the document about how the outreach subcommittee works?
Yeah, about what we said, what we said today about like posting something every month.
Yeah. I guess it would be, you know, there'd be maybe something about, these are the platforms. This is the
Yeah.
objective of the outreach subcommittee, and maybe right now it feels like it's more about communications and promotion, and not so much like sometimes there's some confusion for me with when Nana has been excited about a Sister City Week event, for example, and it feels like there's an expectation that we as outreach would plan that event.
Ah, okay.
So I guess maybe one piece of the document would first of all be our purpose, our objective of the outreach committee.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And what are the steps we take toward? Does that make sense for you too, Michael?
Yeah, it
That's
does.
a good reminder. Yeah, I think that the refresher of what exactly is our purpose is important to settle. And I'm putting two links up into the chat for us of some other docs that we've done over the last couple of months. Both of these, I think, were at least 2-3 months old. And we don't have to go through them today, but just the reminder that they're there.
Okay. Let me get back into the Zoom. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so there's two, like I could draft this document about that would end up going to that would be used by the content providers in our commission. Here's what you need to do and how to do it and by when.
Mhm.
And then Stella, yours would be more what the purpose of the subcommittee is and how we fulfill it, how we carry it out. We use these platforms. We also have our city liaison person in Lachine Parks. Although there are limitations on in terms of what content goes to the city. I mean, we'll have to, all of this will have to be kind of ironed out and stuff, but. Well, we certainly have talked about goal number 2, and so that's great. What was
Yeah.
that?
I mean, I think as we look towards 2022 and like what our goals should be, we have 2 to 2.5 that we just need to kind of carry over into 2022 and have those be the new goals. We just did one of them, the update frequency and getting more communications out there. The other one being the draft a plan on the future of the website and the social media accounts. And then the sort of half of one, we said Adrian was the identify a secondary person to manage the website. And so I think we've laid the ground for that being possible. It's more a matter of just sitting down and actually walking through how to do an update, a couple of times so that it's familiar.
I hesitate to put myself forward for that. And at the same time, I'm pretty interested in it.
Yep.
And part of that interest comes from, I would really love eventually to have a real grants program website, that would be linked to this, or maybe it's just a question of amplifying what we have on our sister city website around the grants program. But I feel like we have untapped potential there, where we have 7 live grants right now, and each one of them could be linked to visuals and info and people's photos, the people that won the grants. There could be so much more there that get people fired up and then informed about what we're doing, what's actually happening. So I guess I'll just put forward a tentative offer of myself to work with you, Michael, or learn how that would work, the Wix website.
Yeah, and I'm happy to help on the, if there's formatting issues or technical stuff, just for any content that you want to put up there, for anybody in the commission, if there's content you want to see up on the website, if you can help draft it, I can help put it up on the website and get it linked up correctly and make sure that the pictures are all aligned and all that sort of stuff.
So we need, we're going to need like a little bit of I think we might have to play the gadfly, even if we give everyone this sheet of instructions, not the one Stella will be working on, but this sheet of here's what to do and when and how to get us this material. We're probably going to have to be every so often putting out a little word like, hey, still need your February input or something.
Yeah.
So are we agreed then that we're kind of kicking goal number, we've done one and we're in the process, we're doing goal number 2 as we speak. And then we're sort of kicking goals 3 and 4 into our new list. Is that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay, I have carryover 3 and 4 from former list of goals.
And if we want a third one, I would say that we take a look at the outreach ideas and decide if there's something in there that we want to try and pursue this year.
Oh, okay. And that is accessible through the links you just sent.
Mhm. And we could word it something like, review, brainstorm outreach ideas and, decide on implementing one of them or something like that.
Okay. So we need a, Michael, would you be good to just recast our goals so we have something on the Google Drive in terms of a new set of goals?
Sure, yeah. I'll take a stab at that and I'll pass it around.
Okay, this is the only thing, what you're looking at on my share screen is the only thing I've typed out here is the carryover 3 and 4 from the former list. And then I used your language here, review/brainstorm outreach ideas and decide on implementing one of them. I can send this to you if you care, but it's not too much.
Yeah, I'm typing it up right now.
Okay.
You don't mind if I could just ask a quick kind of housekeeping question. Did you guys ever resolve the issue with payment information for the Wix website? Had
It
a
is
previous
not-
member.
It's
sorry.
not resolved.
Okay.
I know that renews, I believe, in March. So my fallback is I'll just put my credit card in there if I have to.
Mhm.
I think you said that we might be able to use the city credit card, but you prefer to do it through PO.
Yeah.
And that's so, yeah, I just need to remember to do during the week one day that they're open because they have limited support hours. Because I'm gonna have to, I could not find anything online. I'm gonna have to call them up and find somebody to talk to about it.
Okay. All right. Thanks for checking on that.
No, I appreciate you reminding me about that.
Does this refer to, Michael, you getting reimbursed for something that you're covering in the moment? Do I follow right?
This was, there was a previous commission member who reached out to us and said, hey, I get this thing on my credit card. I thought I canceled that, but I guess it renewed. And turned out that the Wix subscription and like the domain registration was still tied to his credit card. And so we reimbursed him for 2021 and then determined that he also paid in 2020 and didn't realize it. And so got him reimbursed for that as well.
And now is it showing up on the right credit card?
It is not yet. So, I mean, I deleted his credit card information before it renewed and it still renewed on his credit card. So it is possible, if I fell off a cliff tomorrow and nothing else happened in the next 6 months, it's quite possible it hit his credit card again, even though it's been completely removed from the Wix portal. So I don't want to bother him again with that next year.
Okay, so that's something I guess it's not in my backyard. All right, well, it looks like we're 2 minutes away from
Yeah,
me staying on for grants. And what Stella and I will do is maybe maybe all three of us can, Michael, you can put something on Google Drive, and Stella, you and I can, I guess we could do ours on Google Drive too, and then just inform each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, or just, I mean, on Word, then we can, yeah, no, Google Drive, I think it's fine. I mean, we can modify it anyway, right? So, yeah.
Mhm.
Is Damon back yet?
I'm not sure.
Does not seem like
He's
it.
probably a minute, he's probably coming back any second now.
I'm just getting back. I need to wash my hands. So I'll be back in just a second.
Okay.
Well, thanks, you guys.
I'm gonna hang on for a minute because I want to grab like 3 minutes of the grants meeting and ask about the any updates from city council when Damon's here and anybody else is here.
Okay.
Okay.
Because when we did this in May, we actually had a budget time slot. This time around, that went to city reps. So
What do you mean, Michael? Who had a budget time slot or?
when we did the subcommittee meetings back in May, we did 4, and one of them was for budget, because we were putting together the proposed budget and everything for FY22. But this time around, we used that time slot for city reps, so there's no budget time slot.
I gotcha.
So Damon's back. Max, have you heard anything from city council? Is there a way that we can ask them about the progress and what the next steps are?
So this is a fast but long process, right?
Yeah.
Council itself hasn't seen your request yet. The requests are just now being submitted to our budget department. Kina and I did meet with budget today. We briefly discussed the request. And so the next phase is for it to go to, I'd say, the city manager. He starts December 1st. So the next phase would be for your request to go before the city manager. And what happens is there are a series of budget work sessions involving council, involving the budget team, involving the city manager, departments and whatnot. And then it just, the allocations just get narrowed down as we get close to adopting the budget in April. So it won't be officially adopted until April. Council hasn't seen it yet. You know, we have several meetings to work through before we know whether or not it'll actually make it to make it before council, and the city manager will make that determination.
Okay. I know that this got to be a little contentious during the council meeting last week, but how do we as a city council initiative get onto the agenda the way that the food equity folks did?
I think it's just a matter of just a formal request to do so. I mean, the commission is actually supposed to provide an annual report to council. So it's just a matter of signing up for one of those. I'm not sure what the council's agenda looks like between now and the end of the year, but I can certainly talk to Kina, figure out how soon we can get you guys on. And you know, that's one way to get what you want to do and what you have been doing in front of them.
Okay. And so we, just like the budget submission, we write a letter and send it to city council, care of Kina and you and.
Yep, you can send it to Kina, and she'll let you know when you can get on, or I'll, let you know when you can get on.
Okay. All right.
Max, isn't there When I was looking at the information on the city website for new members for these different boards and commissions and all, there was something I saw there that suggested that the boards and commissions comes up with some regularity on the city council meeting agenda. And I guess I made an assumption that, oh, there was always a spot for.
Yeah. So what you may be thinking about is just council's routine appointments of boards and commissions, which is scheduled to occur on a quarterly basis.
That's,
so
so it
maybe
was about
yeah.
appointments, right? Okay, and
What you were thinking about. And so right now we are accepting applications. All of the vacant positions on the Sister Cities Commission is being advertised. You do have one applicant. And so the deadline to apply is December 10th. And then all of those applications will go before council and up for appointment on December 20th.
we're going to be talking about that on at our Tuesday meeting. It should be on the agenda, the business of our membership and steps for recruiting and what all the process is. That's what you helped me on, Max, right? So much.
All right, well, we probably got to move on to grants. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Hey,
All right,
Amanda.
last group of the day.
Good evening. How's everyone?
Good.
Good.
Good. Good. I hope the other sessions have gone well.
Yeah. We had a good one.
Excellent. Very good. Well, you will have seen I sent around last evening for this grant subcommittee session, just a summary of our original 2020 to 2021 goals. And Damon, thank you for sending the link out to the whole commission, which I think probably is our starting point for kind of both reflection and defining our 2022 goals. And then maybe at the end, I hope we could spend a few moments just reviewing some of our priority next steps, really for the next, next 6 weeks or so in the run up to the holidays as we prepare to launch the next grant cycle, hopefully, as well as push forward with the work on the travel scholarship program. So hopefully we can reflect back on those next steps too, depending on our goals. Does that sound like a good plan? And Damon, do you have any suggestions too in terms of what's worked well this evening? I saw you were sharing your screen with or someone was sharing a screen with the goals. And so has it worked well to kind of track those suggestions as we go?
Either way, that's fine. You're more than welcome to share if you have them up. I have your email that I was looking at on my own.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got them too.
Okay, great. Good. Well, I'm happy to share and can take some notes in real time if I can figure that out. Let me just see if I can do that.
I can try and open it up too, if that's better for you.
I don't mind as long as I can see if I can do this quickly. Share. Does that work? Can you see the?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just looking up here, the proposed agenda, do you have any other suggestions for the agenda for this evening as we review our goals and next steps?
I found that 45 minutes goes by very quickly. So you probably
dive in.
An adequate agenda here, I bet. After,
right.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Adrian, Dave, anything else you would want to add?
No, nothing else. Nothing else. There's plenty here. Yeah,
Okay.
for me.
Great. Dave, all good? Great. Okay, thanks. So just as a refresher for our 2020, 2021 goals that we set last year, our first goal was at the time to prepare for the grant cycle. We recognized as we were setting those goals that we were already starting behind from our normal cycle in light of COVID and delays. We were just getting back to work as a commission really after a hiatus. So that was goal number one, and we approved a pot of $16,000 to be put toward grants for individual grants up to $4,000 each. And then I think successfully went through that process with the award of several grant projects that are currently underway under the current grant cycle. Just a note that we also had some past year's grants still in process and are still ongoing as well. So we really have 2 years worth of grant projects still in process. Some of those are wrapping up or have nearly completed, and others are aiming to be completed in the next probably 2 to 3 months. The second goal was around the review, assistance, and oversight of those grant projects. Based on the actual selection of the grant projects, we had set a goal to assign committee members or teams to meet. We said in person with awardees to communicate our support and following through with the plans, the grant projects, and bi-monthly reporting. So that was our goal around kind of grant review and monitoring. And then third, we had set a goal to develop the scholarship award process by April, which we have picked up again, maybe a little later than originally planned, but those were our big 3 goals for 2020 and 2021. So let me just pause here for reactions around this in terms of, how you feel we've done in terms of meeting those goals, and areas where we may want to potentially improve in the future or carry forward some of these goals as longer term efforts.
My response, Amanda, is that we did a quite a good job, I think, with this first goal number 1, in carrying out the whole grants program for this last year. Just a quick question, CNE, what does CNE again? In the publicity?
That I believe is the Center for Nonprofit Excellence is what we were referring to there. I'm not sure we actually worked through CNE to advertise the grant opportunity, but that was suggested at the time.
Okay, that's just interesting to me on the outreach committee, because we're trying to get more a more formalized description of what we do and how we do it. And so I might include that in terms of one of the outlets. The only thing on goal number 2 I would remark on or question is, I don't believe we did assign committee members to connect with awardees. And if we did, and I'm forgetting, please forgive that. But that's one of my suggestions for moving forward, is that we really get more specific on who is going to follow up with which grant recipient.
Yeah.
And how are we going to keep updating ourselves on what's happening. So that's just an area I think we can tighten up.
Thank you, Adrian. I totally agree with that. And I think we did set an intention of doing that. And actually in the dashboard, I included a link above for that, have a column where we could designate grants liaisons. I think a question for us to consider is whether this committee is, among the 3 or 4 of us, including one member who happens to also chair the Sister Cities Commission, and has a full load with that. And of course, I know Adrian and Dave, you said on other committees as well, if it's realistic that we do that among us as a committee, or is this something that we could, engage the wider commission in doing once a grant project is awarded? I'm thinking about city reps, in terms of relationship with the specific focus city of the project could be one, other type of grant liaison. But just, yeah, would appreciate any suggestions around that, whether you think that's needs to be a function limited to this group or something that we might engage the wider commission in.
I think it makes sense to engage those, especially if it is related to their particular sister city.
Yeah.
If there's a grant that's focused on based on its own, it makes sense that Elizabeth would kind of, be the person, the primary point of contact to, make sure things are going the way they should, and keep up with them. And likewise for other sister city reps. I mean, we are in a situation right now where we have such a few number of us that we are all wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
So hopefully we will get some new blood really soon, so we can kind of spread the effort around a little bit, because I know, all of our sister city reps right now are doing a lot of things. So that's my only concern. But I definitely think that the sister city reps, especially if there is a grant that's focused on their city, they're probably going to want to be engaged with that. That's part. It'll, whatever the grant is doing will probably fit in with some of their goals. I would add, in the education portion of today's meetings, we talked about incorporating some language into the request for grant proposals that specifically encourages people to do something with education. We were really mindful of our individual abilities and time available to specifically create events and activities. And we were thinking that trying to make the grants really a key part of our goals as a committee would be particularly helpful. And I think we definitely, it's going to be natural that if there is a education focused grant, that whoever is involved in the education committee, somebody there will probably want to be that person to engage. Or if it's Winneba or, Poggio or Weiwei. So absolutely.
I have another thought, but Dave, do you want to take a?
No, I think this all makes sense. Obviously, where the grant covers multiple sister cities, we just have to figure out sort of how to do the tracking on those. But I agree, if it's focused on one sister city, it makes sense to have the city rep be involved.
Hopefully, some of our new representatives would, might be good people to engage in the multi-city, grants.
And I have some thoughts about, and I guess this would go into our future goals, but I do have some thoughts on revising our policies and procedures around the grants. And one of them has to do with maybe obligating the grant recipients to give us updates on some kind of a regular basis. And they can inform the liaison person, if there is such a liaison person who gets assigned to them. But the point is that they would actually be required to give us some input. I was even thinking quarterly, so that, and I even had the idea that maybe they are obligated to come to one of our meetings at least once in the year, the year from winning the award to the year later, that at one of our monthly meetings, they there's a little window that's open for grant recipients, and we will hear directly from them. And if that's not viable, at least that the liaison, there is someone on the commission who receives information from them. And so it's not just us going in search of, hey, how are you doing? How's it going? That they actually have to give some input. That was an idea. And I assume when you say, Amanda, here, request reports every other month, this is a reporting from grants subcommittee to the larger commission, or this is reports from the grant winners?
Adrian, I think that was referring to what you're describing, reporting from the grant recipients to the grants committee or the larger commission. I think the current application really only states a requirement of providing an end of project presentation to the commission, and would have to double check what if anything it says about routine kind of mid-project reporting. But I think it is a great point to maybe revisit the policies and procedures. I think also maybe adding a bit more guidance around the process of seeking reimbursements, and just a little more guidance there too in the application would probably be helpful. So I think probably one of our next steps does need to be, as we prepare for the next grant cycle, to make some of those adjustments. If we all agree that a little investment in reviewing that and those policies and procedures would be a good goal to set.
Thumbs up for me.
If I could ask a question before you move on. So as far as any uncompleted projects in terms of the grant awards, do we have any unused dollars for, I guess it would be the 2020 grant recipients? Because I believe you extended the time frame that they could use that funding through the end of 2021. And so I just wanted to know, were you expecting someone to roll over into the beginning part of 2022?
I think the answer is definitely yes,
Yes.
based on that recent email from at least, we have 3 older grants and 4 current ones.
Yeah.
So it was one of those 3 older ones that had the question, the POJO grant.
That's correct. So it is in the dashboard, the grants dashboard. We have that. So from the 2019 to 2020 grant cycle, Max, there is still the outstanding Charlottesville Fire Department project to Winneba, which is, I think, as I understood from Dave and Nana, scheduled. That trip is scheduled for the next Winneba trip in December. So that will, I assume, get completed by early 2022. And then we also, just as Adrian mentioned, got an update on the Poggio music exchange, which has been postponed twice and now has been rescheduled a 3rd time for March. So that is one that is extending longer than we had originally envisioned. We had talked about a 1-year extension of those projects, but they are going into the first, I mean, there are, I think, 2 examples that are going into early 2022 now.
All right.
So that's 8,000, sorry, part of the Poggio trip has already been, the airfares have been purchased. I'm not sure if they have for Winneba, Dave, for the fire department trip, but so some of those expenses, I think, have already been processed, but there probably will be some outstanding expenses. At least the airfare cost may have already come to the clerk's office.
Okay.
I know the fire department has already purchased their travel vouchers, which includes the airfare and lodging and the meals and everything for the December trip. So it's just a matter of them getting reimbursed from the city, which should be, I don't see why they couldn't do that during 2021.
Okay. And I only raise it, the question because I don't know that there will be any problem, any budget issue as far as extending the use of those dollars out so far. But I'll just kind of make Keena aware of the plan and let you know whether or not there's any concern.
Great, thank you. Yes, actually, I had that same question, and Keena was looped into an email exchange regarding the Poggio music exchange trip that's now been postponed to March to make sure that the grantees asked that question too. Would there be any issue with getting reimbursed? Okay. As late as March 2022 for that expense, for those remaining expenses.
Okay.
Yeah, so if there is a concern, please do let us know so we can connect with the grantees on that.
Do we need to have a formal vote on whether or not to extend that into 2022? Or can we just presume that that's what we want to do and just do it? Do we need to do anything formal? Anyone?
I would say we presume, okay, I mean, March 2022 is 2 solid years, and that allows for the extra year given COVID. I think the question might be if someone wants to know about reimbursement beyond then. But as far as March 2022, I'm on board.
I'm fine with that. I just didn't know if the city required anything. I did. The whole episode does kind of make me look at the issue of refunding airfare, for example, that, and then getting, canceling that travel. And now I think the grantee has the city funds,
In suspension.
I guess, in suspension, and I presume personally, I presume that they personally have those funds. It just makes me, just not, I'm not thinking this part in particular, but in general, I think it feels a little weird that, a person could walk away and never, go on the trip. And they've gotten these funds. But I guess we would just cross that bridge, if it ever happened. I'm sure it probably never will. I don't know. It just struck me as odd. I don't know.
Well,
they
maybe
couldn't help
it's
it. These are unusual circumstances. I
Right.
certainly don't think there's anything nefarious.
maybe it's incumbent on us to really stay on top of these grant outcomes, that the projects happen. And if they don't, there's some expectation of, getting the money back. I don't know.
Well,
I wonder-
sometimes when you get an airfare refunded, it's in the form of a credit, that if they never flew on a trip on behalf of it for a sister city grant, then I would think that the city would expect reimbursement at some point, but
I wonder if we'd want to set a target to have made sure that, that either the trip has been completed, all expenditures made by the end of, no later than the end of this current fiscal year. In the event that the March, so if March got delayed again, due to another surge of COVID, do we allow, another extension, or would we then want to request a refund? So that it is a potential scenario that we could face, something we probably never anticipated, but it might be good to aim to try to wrap up all these pending projects by the end of this fiscal year, if possible. Because otherwise we have these carryovers, this obligation that keeps following budget, 1 year to the next.
I wonder if we should tell them that they need to finish their project by the end of the fiscal year. And just be really clear. Because, I mean, we can't go on forever. I know it's COVID and it's complicated times, but eventually, if they really want to do the project, I think they would need to reapply. You know, if we've gone 2 years beyond. You know. Anyway.
Okay.
The other thing in that communication, we could also suggest that if needed, adjustments could be made if it's possible the project be completed in some variant way.
Right.
That
doesn't involve travel.
right.
Right. An alternative project.
Of course, then the question, you're still faced with that travel credit.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, I think the larger point Adrienne made around needing to kind of update and policies and procedures, and I think some of the experiences we've had of the past year and a half have brought to light some of the areas where we could probably provide a bit more clarity within the application process and procedures for grant making. So is there any objection to adding a goal along those lines for 2022?
Sounds good.
Okay. The third goal.
I do think it would.
Excuse me.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you want to wrap up on that point too, Adrienne, if it's on that point, go ahead and.
Yeah, on that, I looked further on, Amanda, at your schedule for this coming grants cycle, and I thought that we might have to still take an extra couple of weeks potentially. Because if we do some of that revision or a good job on that revision, we wouldn't be ready to publicize the grant cycle by November 19th. So there's an impact there. But I for one would be happier having a later, somewhat later application deadline. Even if we, I would think the reward of having our policies and procedures in better shape would outweigh hewing to the exact schedule of the traditional cycle.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that point. And something we can look at. I think one question may be whether we can, whether we will need any kind of commission approval of the updated application before it's posted, which would potentially delay us by a month if we make substantive changes to the application and policies and procedures. That might be something that we would need to share with the larger commission for approval prior to posting that. So that might then kind of put us into the December commission meeting. Assuming we're having a meeting in December. Just a thought. Don't know if what others think about that.
Well, it's definitely a valid point. I mean, we're bound by the policies of, having discussions in public meetings. One option, I hate to add more time to our meetings, but we could potentially open the next meeting this upcoming week. If we were so energetic, we could open it early and have our group meet before everyone else rolls in. I don't know if that's a possibility or you would even be interested in doing it, but well, I don't know. I still don't think there's enough time to seriously, I don't know.
Well, Adrienne, it sounded like you had some revisions in mind already to the application. So what I would suggest, as a next step there is if, one of us could go ahead and start, with some proposed edits, we can then share that among us. And then, if I don't know if we can, if it's feasible to get that done, that review and how much we want to change in the application. But in the past, we've usually made a few updates every time. But if it's a much more significant kind of updating process, or you were thinking of a separate document, Adrienne, that might require more time.
I don't know for sure, although I tend to think it's a little more substantive than just a
Mhm.
couple of tweaks. And in part from things that came up last year and then things that have come up through this year, a few questions. So what I would be happy to do is do some work on whatever materials I'm referring to, the application, and I can't remember how we describe our procedures, but the point is those are on some things on our website too about what our policies and procedures are. So I can look at it, I can either make changes, suggested changes, or raise questions, and I could send it to the two of you, Damon and Amanda, and you could take a look and see what are we talking about. Just for the sake of this conversation, if we were to get commission approval and need it to get it in December, the announcement would go out early. We're not going to announce right before the holiday, the big holidays. So maybe in early January it goes out, and applications are due. I guess last year we did it. Applications were due end of January. People had a month. We put it out. Or maybe we put it out.
We put it out in
December 15th.
December. Mhm. We did, yeah, and then we
Yeah.
had applications due mid-January, so we could follow a similar schedule. Although I don't know what the date of the commission meeting is in December. I don't have that in front of me, but on whether that's realistic. But why don't we go ahead and make that?
Why don't we just see what I'm thinking about, and if you guys, if it looks like it's something that could be handled in this next week meeting, okay, but I guess I wish I had thought to get on this sooner, because I feel like it feels like it needs a little bit more thought from all of us, but we'll see. Let me get something and get it out to you in the next few days and see where we stand.
Okay. Thanks, Adrienne. So I can also then look at, well, based on that, what an alternative award cycle schedule could look like if we were to push back the schedule by a month or so, and sort of work with the calendar on that, and so we can take a look at that as an alternative. Okay, great. So I'm hearing probably a similar goal one, just kind of some updates. I think just on goal one, what I see in the proposed budget for the next for this current year, I think is total grants up to 16,000. That was, I think, approved in a previous commission meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we would probably want to use some similar language to prepare for the next grant cycle. Is there any addition or objection to that? Kind of just updating goal one for the new calendar year, but the funding amounts and so forth remain the same. Okay.
I believe that in the recent budget request, we figured that, now that's not for new money, but we figured using 16,000 from our current balance of money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So we'll retain, just update that goal. Goal two, I think it sounds like we want to generally retain, but potentially modify a bit to reflect an intention to have more regular updates, and maybe setting a goal of having a mid-project, if not in-project, presentation or update in a commission meeting for every grantee, making that more specific and looking at how we integrate that. And then probably a goal three around updating grant application policies and procedures, as suggested by Adrienne. That's something we would want to try to complete, maybe even as goal one. I'm wondering, since it would precede the cycle, based on our discussion today. So we would make that maybe goal one. And then the final goal from this past year is the scholarship award, a scholarship program, which had a really, I think, robust discussion of in our last meeting. And then I think the next step there is that I need to make some updates to the overall concept note with all of the feedback, which I hope to do prior to Tuesday's meeting next week. But I'm not sure if there's much more discussion. I mean, I think we would want to share that with the commission. And I imagine that final approval of the scholarship program and budgeting it for that, if there are additional funds available next year and so forth, would be an ongoing kind of goal, is to finalize that scholarship program and implement it, maybe as a goal for next year. Does that sound right as a fourth goal?
The scholarship award there currently in goal 3 is the travel scholarship that we've all been talking about.
Yes.
And you just said that we would kind of shoot for it to be in our live next year.
Yes, I think that's the goal that I heard. I think I heard a lot of support from the whole commission for. Obviously, it's dependent on funding availability, but nonetheless, I think we want to get as far as we can in designing the travel scholarship program and also thinking through how we would administer it. There's more of that kind of thinking, I think, needed to that. The policies and procedures type of thinking, Adrian, that that's sort of counterpart to what we've been talking about with the grant projects.
Agreed.
Okay.
So can I ask a quick question? This doesn't differentiate between grants and sponsorships. And I know we've discussed in the past how they're two different beasts and two different sort of standards of review. Do we need to spell that out here, or I'm not trying to create more work where it's not necessary, but.
It's a good point, Dave. Do you think that we need to create a separate kind of process for sponsorships? I know that sometimes they get mixed up with grant projects, and we receive those requests through grants projects because we don't have a different process in place, or maybe it's just an unclear process for how to request sponsorship for events and so forth. What would you suggest?
I mean, ideally, I think we should have it. I'm not suggesting we need it in place by 2022, but maybe it's a longer term goal. But I think sponsorships really lend themselves not so much to a once a year, application process, but potentially could be more year round, or but again, I don't necessarily know that we need to wrestle with that right away, but something to think about
as a possible goal 5. Yeah, I support that too. And I remember a discussion a few months ago where we talked about needing to just generally clarify kind of the differences between a grant, a sponsorship, and now a scholarship, a travel scholarship too.
Right.
Kind of 3 different methods or mechanisms for commission support.
Yeah.
Funding and support. So I think it's a good goal to set, maybe a stretch goal as a goal 5 if we can get to it. But it sounds like the travel scholarship program would be higher priority.
I agree.
Okay. Great. Any other goals anyone wants to suggest for our grants committee?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Whenever we do come to a sponsorship process,
Sorry.
there kind of, whenever we do come around to assess, there are, can you hear me okay?
You were
No.
breaking up for a moment.
Okay. I think there are kind of 2 different types of sponsorships. Some that kind of come to us the way the book event did. And then I see others that are kind of more at our I think like the Festival of Cultures, for example, where it's kind of more our effort that kind of goes towards that. I mean, at least I've not been here when one of those was funded, but we've funded those, right? I mean, we've provided funding for Festival of Cultures, I believe. So whenever we do create a sponsorship program or process, we just might think that these might not always come at the request of an organization, but they might come from us and our ideas someday. So it's just something to think about. That we might come up with the idea to sponsor something, or someone else may request us to sponsor something. But again, that's a couple of years down, sounds like.
Okay,
That's a good point, Damon, though.
great. Well, so I think we have 5 goals now. The goal 1, and I can take a stab at updating those and sharing them with the subcommittee for your edits. But I think I'm hearing goal 1 is around updating our application policies and procedures for the grants projects, then launch the 2021-22 grant cycle. And I'll work on updating that calendar, the alternative calendar based on Adrian's kind of signaling too around how much work may be needed for the updates on goal 1. Goal 3 will be around the grant review and monitoring, and including clarifying and assigning roles for grant liaisons and instituting some regular check-ins or checkpoints with grantees. Goal 5 around final design and implementation of the travel scholarships program. And goal 5, if we can get to it, is to clarify or sort of define further the sponsorships program. Did that capture
spend
it?
a whole lot of time on that, on creating that one, but it can't hurt to write a sentence or two.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, and I can probably take a stab at timelines. Just I think that the order of goals probably reflects a little bit of the time sensitivities around getting the grant cycle up and running too. So I would say those first 3 are probably the most time sensitive, and then the travel scholarships we would want to try to finalize before the next fiscal year starts, and then finally, hopefully before the next retreat or goal setting process, we have made some progress on this sponsorship program.
And just a question, if we were to repeat our grants cycle schedule of last year, more than the traditional, it's somewhat arbitrary, right? Or it's in our purview. Like, it doesn't, especially given COVID, it doesn't seem like it would be a big effect. What are there impacts that I'm not aware of if we, if everything was pushed another month out this time? I mean, it wouldn't need to be. We could go back to the traditional rhythm next time around, but
I can't think of major downsides or consequences based on the experience of this past year.
I mean, the only thing might be if there's someone who wanted to do something in early spring and time was of the essence for them. That's one thing that could impact, but if they don't know that that's the schedule, then I mean, it might open up something for someone who would do something later in the program. So probably a wash.
Maybe we should check too, what, if anything, the website says about the grant cycle timeline.
right.
If someone were to go to the website to research that now, what would they find?
Right. I'll definitely look. I'll look at everything before I put something together. I am thinking there's a little upside in having the application be due in early or mid-January, like we did last time, because it allows people that holiday break to work on their think through their project, as opposed to having it have to be due right before the holiday.
holidays. Yep. Okay, good. Well, I know we're over time, but I think we got through our main goal setting for 2022. And just, if you're still seeing my screen, I had summarized some priority next steps for our committee around launching the grant cycle, updating the concept note for the travel scholarship program, and I think continuing to liaise with past grantees. I don't know if we want to try to go ahead and do assignments now of that role. I think it's been a little bit inconsistent, those follow-ups. I know we don't have time to discuss now, but I've been trying maybe in a not so systematic way to check in. And I know other members of the commission have relationships or, or collaboration with some of the grantees, or, have been updating. But if you could share any updates from any interactions you've had with grantees in the dashboard and note to sort of document so we can see what the current status of the grant projects is, that would be, I think, the main ask for now. And we can also decide if we wanted to go ahead and assign roles for grant liaison for the still open grants. I mean, it's probably not too late. And I think I drafted previously a job description or scope of work for that role, which I can try to dig up if we want to revisit that under our next goal 3. And I think we could probably go ahead and get that underway. Okay.
Sounds good.
Great. Anything further?
Thanks so much for being so organized and putting together such a wonderful agenda.
Thank you for being wonderful co-committee members and for sticking with this. I know it's been a long evening for you, at least, Damon, sitting through all these sessions. So thank you and congratulations on getting through the next goal setting process. And yeah, Dave, I know you're juggling a lot too. Really appreciate your being here.
Likewise. Thank
you.
you all.
All right. Thank you. Thanks so much, Adrian and everyone. And thank
You too, Amanda.
you, Max and Lasheen. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.